Welcome back to Politics Nation. 40 days ago, on a rainy February night, Trayvon Martin was on his way home from a local 7-Eleven, armed only with iced tea and a bag of Skittles. That walk was less than a mile long. Martin would end up dead less than 100 yards from where he was staying. At 7:11 p.m., George Zimmerman called 911 to report a, quote, suspicious man in his neighborhood. 1 minute later, Trayvon got a call from his girlfriend. According to her account, Trayvon said someone was following him.
Trayvon said the man was following him, and then Trayvon asked Trayvon to run. And Trayvon said he ain't gonna run like that. He's gonna walk fast.
Now, 2 minutes into his 911 call, Zimmerman has this exchange with the 911 dispatcher.
They always get away.
Are you following him?
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need you to do that.
Okay.
There are serious questions about what happened next. Was Zimmerman really on the way back to the car when he confronted Trayvon? Were there, in fact, two separate confrontations between them? What do we know? What we do know is that at 7:16, the line between Trayvon and his girlfriend went dead. And around that time, 911 calls like this started coming in.
So you think he's yelling help?
Yes.
All right, what is your phone number?
There's gunshots.
Police arrived at the scene at 7:17, and at this point, more questions arise. How much first aid was done on Zimmerman? Why didn't police question him at that point? All we know is that 35 minutes later, at 7:52 p.m., Zimmerman walked into the police station. Enhanced video shows what appears to be a mark on Zimmerman's head, but questions remain as to if he was seriously hurt. He was released later that night and hasn't been in police custody since. Joining me now is Walt Zulisko, a retired police chief from Florida, and now president and CEO of Global Investigative Group, and Toure, an MSNBC contributor who's been following the case closely. Walt, let me start with you. As a former police officer, what questions does this timeline raise to you?
Well, initially, when the officers responded, the first question that the officer should have asked Mr. Zimmerman as he was standing over the body of Trayvon is, why did you shoot him? And to see if there was some justification. Nowhere in the police reports is that indicated that he asked him that question.
Now,
there's a lot of...
Go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
No, you...
I said there's also a lot of other problems that I see from the media accounts. Is George Zimmerman is claiming that Trayvon punched him in the face and knocked him down, and he was trying to grab his weapon. Well, I would want to know, as an investigator, is why was that weapon displayed before the encounter? By Florida law, if you have a concealed weapon, you're not to display that until the time that you intend to use it. So the way I'm reading it is that he had that weapon in his hand when Trayvon approached him, or he approached Trayvon. He had a jacket on. If it was concealed, how would Trayvon know he had a weapon? So, that would be a question as an investigator. I would ask, did you have that weapon displayed? When you were struggling, how did that weapon come out? How would Trayvon know you had a weapon?
That's a very, very good point, Toure. I think that what a lot of people don't understand, when I first was called by the attorney for the family and started hearing this, the outrage that I felt, and then as word spread and people around the country got involved, is that it seemed as though from the beginning, either they were the most inept police or there was an intentional diversion from trying to find out what should have happened that night, because all you needed was probable call to call a probable situation to make an arrest, and let the courts, the judge and the jury decide.
Well, to Walt's point and to your point, the lead homicide investigator that night wanted to arrest and charge him that night and go to trial.
Right.
We know that the stand your ground law is a major problem and allows a person like a George Zimmerman to just invoke that, and then the prosecutors, the burden is put on the prosecutors to prove that it's not self-defense. So as soon as he says, hey, I was standing my ground, then the duty goes to the prosecutors. It becomes much harder to make that arrest and to make that charge. This is a major problem in America that we have to work to strike down these stand your ground laws.
No question about that, and I'm all for that. But, Walt, I think that even before we get to that, you raised some fundamental points. Because when did he invoke stand your ground laws if he wasn't questioned? And can police, based on somebody raising it, if he did it at the police station, do they make the decision that they are the legislature now and they interpret the law, or do they say, tell it to the judge?
Well, I would think that they would have to, on an issue like this, they would have to consult with the state attorney, and I would let the state attorney make that ultimate decision, because we're talking a serious crime here. So, you know, if that was my department, I would let the state attorney make that ultimate decision whether to arrest him or not.
Well, that's good, because, Walt, let me come here to Torrey. The attorneys for the family said that they had information given them that the state prosecutor at the time, Norm Wolfinger, had gone to the station that night and had ruled the investigator that you said wanted to have him arrested. Now, Norm Wolfinger says, quote, I am outraged by the outright lies. No such meeting or communication occurred.
Interesting.
Well, if he didn't do it, who did? Who decided not to make the arrest? If we have an affidavit, we're told, that the chief investigator said he wanted an arrest, who vetoed it if he's saying there was no communication or meeting that night?
I don't know. I would love to get to the bottom of that. I also have another question that keeps burning in my mind, because this is the third time in about 6-7 years that George Zimmerman's been in trouble with the law. Right? He's arrested for pushing a cop in 2005. He also has a domestic violence injunction against him in 2005. And now this, and all three times he's able to sort of slide out of the problem fairly easily. Wonder if the fact that his father was a judicial magistrate in Virginia had something to do with that.
Well, and we hear his mother also was a
court clerk.
Now, let me ask you, and as the last question, Walt, why didn't police contact Trayvon's parents? And what does this say about the department? He's there, dead with a cell phone, and if his father hadn't have kept calling and pursuing, there was never any contact made. I mean, how do you explain that?
Well, the fact that they did not reach out to the parents that night is unquestionable. They had his cell phone. You know, we have to remember, at this point, he is a victim. You know, so you can search that cell phone without a warrant. It was very easily to ascertain what number that was, who the last person they called. Besides that, they had his driver's license, I believe, from media accounts. They had his driver's license. They had all his information. Why they wouldn't send a police car in Miami-Dade to Trayvon's mother's house is we don't know. You know, that's the process that they should have followed. Send a car there, make a notification to her immediately that night. Is this your son?
Walter Zulesco and Torrey, thanks to both of you, and have a wonderful Easter weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.